Hello everyone and welcome back to Bitwig Studio and Music Production. This is lesson 5.01 and in this lesson I'm just going to show you a third-party plugin that I use all the time. So in the next few videos, before we jump in and start talking about the different instruments in Bitwig, I wanted to maybe add a couple of additional third-party plugins that you may consider using. And the reason I'm showing them to you is because there might be situations where I go in and use them. So for example, if I don't feel like there is something that I can actually do inside of Bitwig, or if I want just a little bit of variation, I might go and use these particular plugins. All of the plugins, with the exception of this first one, are free and they work very easily. I never like to use plugins that have more than like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 different knobs. That just becomes too much for me. So I'm going to show you some very simple ones, and you can use them or you don't have to use them. But I want to keep it transparent. I don't want you guys thinking that after I give you a creation project, I suddenly go off and start dropping in 800 different plugins and doing some witchcraft or anything like that. For the most part, and actually up till now, I've done exactly what I've said. I've used only those parameters and limitations that I've set out in the description. So I'm going to talk about this one, and I use this all the time. I'm a big fan of the Klanghelm audio plugins, mainly because it's just an individual guy developing these things. And I know how difficult that can be in this age today where we have some huge companies making some very good plugins. But this one guy has made, for me, what is the most essential plugin that I use on a day-to-day basis. There's nothing else I use more than this. It's a very simple VU and peak program meter plugin. It has a trim knob as well, so we can change the volume slightly from different parts in our signal chain. And I'm going to show it to you because there is no demo, and I never really recommend buying something without a demo. So I'm just going to show it to you, and then maybe you'll use it, maybe you won't. This isn't necessarily for everybody, because I know a lot of people who don't really care too much about the gain staging until the very end, or they just make sure that nothing is happening or going in the reds. But if you're somebody like me and you have like 8 different tool devices going across at the bottom, this might be something you may want to consider investing in. And again, I'm only showing it to you because I'm going to be using it in this section. If I wasn't planning to use it in this section, I wouldn't show it to you. I don't know this guy personally. I don't get any kickback if you go out and buy it, but I just want to keep things transparent and as honest as possible. So let's take a look at it. Right now I have one in. I've already kind of optimized it for my uses, so that way if I pull it out and I had a MIDI controller set up and I had this clicked on so it was the default device, I could change the knobs and I wouldn't actually have to go in here and make any changes. I've already set this up the way I like it, but there's some additional settings you guys can set here, and this number that you set is probably going to be most important because it's going to directly correlate to how this VU meter actually responds. So right now, if I play this back, I'm going to turn off the compressor. This is going to be the sample we'll be looking at. And right now, I'm actually in stereo mode. So let's go ahead and turn this to mono first. Okay, and you can see that now it's actually just summed the stereo information, and we're seeing just one black meter going across here. To take this a step further, I'll add a tool to the very beginning. I'll pan this off a little bit to the left, and we'll go into stereo mode. And now we can see that the right side is being shown with this red needle, and the left side is being shown with this black needle. Okay, very, very cool. Nothing too fancy. And just remember that you have to understand where you're placing these meters. If you're just dropping them in willy-nilly, it makes no sense to use it. So if I was to put another one of these at the start, okay, before I've done this panning and I pull it out, and I also like to kind of organize these left to right. And let's change the skin on this one so we know. And let's just make sure that we're in VU meter, everything is lining up. We'll see a difference right away. Oops. My apologies, guys. Actually, if I want to just set it back, I can just click that. Right, so we can see that big difference as we go along the signal chain here. So one of the processors that always confuses people, and it confused me for a long time when I started, was the compressor, and understanding how exactly it was working. I could turn the compressor on, I could hear how I was losing level, I could see the gain reduction meter. But for someone like me, you know, the gain reduction meter just isn't good enough. I just don't fully understand what's happening there. And I could drop a tool device, you know, here and here. And again, I can see, yeah, we're losing level, but how is it actually impacting the signal? Let me just bring the pan back a little bit. I'll keep it a little so we can continue to see that difference, but that's probably good. So one great trick is to use something like this Klanghelm VUMT to actually see what's happening with the compression. We'll actually be able to see how the dynamic envelope and how the dynamic range has changed. So I'll pull it in. One more instance. Let me go to my version that I like. This one's at -12. Let's change it to -15. Okay. Everything is the same here. Perfect. So we can obviously see that after we've applied this compressor, quite a bit has happened, right? We've taken away a whole bunch of gain. So if I want, and let's go back to the beginning, I can use the trim knob here to try to bring this up, and let's watch and see where this is peaking out. Okay, it's peaking out quite hard. So I'm not going to go quite to that extreme. Maybe something like that's going to work. Let's change the skin as well. So I'm hoping you're able to see how the dynamics has changed. They have changed quite a bit, and chances are I wouldn't actually use this particular trim within the plugin. I'd probably go into the compressor so that way we could actually understand the difference if I turn the compressor on and off. And now we can see those differences there. And also, this is going to indicate to us when we're getting close to digital zero, it will go into yellow, then it will go into orange. And then if we start to peak, it will turn red, and it will correspond to our digital zero output. So if I start to turn this up a little bit too hot, right, you're able to see how it's going orange, yellow, orange, and then red. So I use this thing a lot. It's very, very helpful for me. And also it's a little bit easier than some of those really, really expensive and super full metering suites. Like, for example, something like Isotope Insight. It's a very useful application, but it takes up your entire screen. And so I love using this thing and being able to just run 4 of these across my screen, and so I can actually see what's happening along the stages. And then, assuming I'm happy with everything, I can just go back and delete them. In case you were wondering, this actually comes with 2 plugins. It also comes with this Duo as well. And so the Duo works a little bit differently. We can, again, put these settings to be very similar if we want. Right now, if I change this just to 15, we're pretty much working identically. This is now just the left, this is the right, instead of having 2 different needles. And then we can also work in mid-side mode, which is pretty cool, to be honest. We can see what's happening on the mids as compared to on the sides. And so if we were using our mid-side processor before this, and we're doing particular things to it, let's just add in one of those. And let's take the mids and like just really turn them down. Right, we can see the differences there, which I think is pretty cool and at times useful. I tend to just use the solo a lot because it's smaller and because I can stack these up. Very low CPU load, so I'm happy with that as well. And having the 4 different skins makes it very easy to do before and after. There's also a peak program meter in here, so this is going to not work like a VU meter, but more like a classic digital meter that shows you the peaks. If I play this back, you'll see the differences right away. And it's going to be very similar to what you actually see happening in the tool device here, okay, with these top lines. So that's that. That's the Klanghelm VUMT Solo and Duo. I don't recommend it to everybody. If you're the type of person who doesn't worry so much about gain staging and you're just making sure you're not in the reds, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you're like me and you really like to see and have that kind of analog style VU meter feedback, it just makes me feel more comfortable. And like I said at the beginning, I just feel naked not having access to this particular plugin. So that's going to do it for this lesson. And in the next lesson, we're going to talk about a few other additional plugins, freeware, that we can use to just add a little bit more variety to our sounds and to our sound design. So thank you so much for watching, and you'll hear from me then. Take care.